I'm Daryl Owens. Welcome to A World of Difference, embracing neurodiversity. Education is no cakewalk for students with learning and attention issues. Statistics show that students who learn differently drop out of high school at nearly 3 times the rate of all students. And neurodivergent students who do complete high school attend 4-year colleges at half the rate of their peers. While there are various barriers such as perceived stigma, soft skills, and proving their disabilities to receive accommodations that keep students with learning disabilities from entering the academy, not going to college for many students boils down to something more fundamental: cost. That's where a program called Vocational Rehabilitation can throw these families a lifeline. Vocational Rehabilitation, or VR, helps individuals with disabilities transition into the workforce. It can support training in any field or career from science to law that requires post-secondary education or a degree. And VR can provide help with planning for college and provide help with some of the costs of attendance. Of course, it helps to understand the nuts and bolts of how vocational rehabilitation can help your student go to college to maximize the benefits. On this episode, we peek in on an educational professional who tutors parents in the ABCs of using vocational rehabilitation programs to pay for college for students who learn differently. Next, to help parents best maximize what could be a valuable resource for their college-bound child with learning or attention issues, our expert panel delves deeper into the thorny patch of different jargon, processes, and requirements that set apart state vocational rehabilitation programs. Later, you'll meet our latest difference maker, a baker who is cooking up a multi-layered brand of success as a model, author, and neurodiversity advocate. But first, we meet up with an educational advocate coaching up parents about services Voc Rehab can provide to pave a less bumpy road to college success for children who learn differently. A World of Difference senior correspondent Cindy Peterson brings us the story.
Navigating a special needs child through schooling can be difficult, especially when it comes to higher education and employment. What are your options? How will you afford it? How will my child find a job in today's society? To help better answer these questions, founder and CEO of IEP Partner, Jenny Wojcik, collaborates with other advocacy groups to ensure each child has every opportunity afforded to them.
We help families navigate the school system so that their children who have disabilities, from autism, cerebral palsy, epilepsy, learning disabilities, dyslexia, Down syndrome, anxiety, depression, ADHD, receive the services and the support and the learning environments that they need to be successful.
One of these programs is the Vocational Rehabilitation Program in Central Florida, or VR, which connects students with job coaches, training programs, and professional opportunities.
VR's purpose is to help those with disabilities become employable. There are 3 responsibilities that a school has. One is for further education, further employment, and independent living. Vocational rehab has an extensive program, resources, training opportunities for children who have disabilities. And so it really helps to meet 2 of those requirements that a school is to do. Schools are struggling with staffing and the ability to meet all of their children's needs. So it's good to have a broader stroke when it comes to how are we going to prepare children who have disabilities for life.
VR is a federal and state program that walks alongside a high school student through college to make sure that when they have their diploma, they are ready for employment.
All the students who are part of VR go through first getting connected, and then they do an evaluation, and that evaluation consists of a psychoeducational, a really deep look into it, and a job skills assessment. So what are your soft skills? What what comes easy to you when you learn? What are your natural gifts? What are some of the struggles that you have? What do you have to offer employers? There's also sponsorships, which is a really big deal. That's tuition and books and fees, which is oftentimes really an incentive to look into VR. But really, it's your partner through college and helping you to overcome or learn a workaround for the obstacles that prevent students to become who they want to become.
Jenny meets with parents one-on-one, visits schools, and travels throughout Central Florida, giving seminars to parents on all VR and other advocate groups have to offer for their children.
Actually, I came here today because I need to learn more about programs. I actually have a little brother. He has Down syndrome and he's nonverbal, so it's definitely a struggle for my parents and I to find jobs for him where he does have the ability to use the skills he has, because like I said, he is nonverbal and he is about to turn 20. So he is approaching that age where, you know, he is about to come out of school and he does need to start looking for a job.
I have a daughter who was diagnosed with a brain tumor when she was 14. She went through a surgery that left her with some very rare complications. And one would think that the worst thing you're ever told is that your child has a brain tumor, and it's actually not. It's dealing with the silent complications that the rest of the world can't see. And it just kind of detoured her in her learning journey. You couple that with the fact that COVID hit, and it took a teenager and just completely derailed her. So I'm always looking for opportunities that will get her kind of back on track and just make her realize that she is not the kid with the brain tumor, but she is the kid who survived more obstacles than someone at that age possibly could think of surviving.
You know, candidly, I came with a very open mind and, you know, learned that there are programs out there that, you know, unfortunately, most parents aren't, you know, aware of. And, you know, I think that's a part that, you know, right now as a recruiter, as my profession, you know, I'm always trying to help the youth kind of get prepared for post-graduation, for their first job, for their, you know, pursuits in life. And I think that we don't do a very good job overall in high school of giving children the tools necessary to be successful. And I think that was the one takeaway I took from today, is that there are programs like this for people to really, you know, find their path. And I thought that was pretty impressive.
In a world that doesn't do a great job of giving kids with exceptional services a lot of direction, it sounds like it might be a program that would help her feel like she's not the only one going through it. Something that maybe gives her a plan and a navigation.
Jenny has made it her personal mission to guide families in the right direction, no matter what obstacles they may be facing when it comes to their child's future.
I'm able to not only help them from an advocate point of view, but I'm able to connect them with the psychologist that I partner with, the retired special education teacher that I partner with, the speech and language pathologist that I partner with. And we have a very different look at the child. We look at that whole child. And so really any child who's struggling, we can help a parent find a path forward. You're not alone. There are people like myself who want to help you fight for what your child needs to be successful. It takes a little bit of work, and the parents who have children who struggle are so tired. They're so tired. But they don't have to do it alone. And there are places like VR and people at VR that are really hoping you call. And it's just, if I can help connect them, I will.
For A World of Difference, I'm Cindy Peterson.
Thanks, Cindy. Next, our experts look closer at the world of vocational rehabilitation. Melissa Bradley is a coordinator of career partnerships at Beacon College in Leesburg, Florida. Before that, she served as Vice President of Education for Junior Achievement of Central Florida and as a Director of Training and Outreach for the Florida Department of Education. Mary Mealy is founder and CEO of Evolved Education, a New York-based school placement, tutoring, and guidance company. She is also the author of 2 books, Disability, Ability, and 30 Strategies for Learning Well in College, books that focus on reframing the perspective on neurodivergence and supporting success for students who learn differently. Jennifer Wojcik is a former teacher, coach, mentor, advocate, and CEO and founder of IEP Partner LLC, a company that advocates for families in Florida and Virginia with children who need a 504 plan or IEP. So we're going to start our conversation this morning with you, Melissa. In a nutshell, what is vocational rehabilitation?
Thank you, Daryl. Appreciate you having me today. So vocational rehabilitation is often referred to as voc rehab, a VR. Families might hear those terms also and make that connection. It's essentially a federal state eligibility program of partner services really designed to support neurodiverse people and those with disabilities as they seek to secure and maintain employment in the long run. Now, to be eligible for those services, a person must have an impairment that results in a substantial obstacle to employment, and they must require those VR services for employment. So every state VR agency actually employs a team or an army of VR counselors who are there to serve and support that client and can truly help a person with a disability determine their eligibility for all the services that a state may be able to offer. Now, what's important to remember is that these services, that they're going to vary from state to state. So while the language and processes are really just nuances, generally speaking, if you have a disability, it's important to explore those services that your state offers and really become familiar with what's available to you.
Thank you for that. Mary, so who actually is eligible for vocational rehabilitation services?
Sure. Well, I think the important language here is that a person needs to establish a mental or a physical impairment with a substantial interference with their ability to work. And so in that language, there's a lot of gray area there for us to really talk about what qualifies an individual for certain types of services or assessments, because we're really looking at the impact that the impairment has on an individual's ability to work. There are, of course, as Melissa indicated, a variety of different qualifiers per state that you're living in. So you may, for example, in New York State where I live, you need to be 14, you need to be able to be a legal U.S. citizen who can work in the U.S. You need to have also a qualified ability to participate in the process. So there may be other qualifications that you need to consider per your state.
Well, speaking of qualifications, and specific to our show, of course, are learning and attention issues considered qualifying conditions?
Sure. So for sure, if they will substantially interfere with your ability to work, they will qualify you for certain services, accommodations, sometimes technology and assisted technology may be brought into a person's plan. So it really is contingent on that qualifier of, is the learning or attentional issue going to interfere with a person's ability to work? That's what we want to really talk about and establish. So that's what we want to look at, especially with learning and attentional issues.
Thank you, Mary. Jennifer, so how do I get referred to VR? Do I need to be referred to VR?
And thank you so much for inviting me today. It's a pleasure to be here. The initial is really going to come from a school environment. That's one of the sources or pathways to being referred to VR. It's oftentimes the fastest way to get there is to reach out to the guidance counselor, the special education support personnel. But that's not the only way to connect with VR. You can actually refer yourself. A parent or guardian can refer you. A teacher can refer you. There are multiple avenues for you to be connected with VR. In Florida, one of the ways that has been recommended to Florida citizens and students is to actually go to the vocational rehab office. It expedites the process and it makes that initial contact so that it's not just back and forth on emails. And we found that to be really successful pathway to connect with VR.
So, Melissa, if I am deemed eligible for vocational rehabilitation services, exactly what kind of services might I expect to receive?
So this is exciting to share because it's something that a lot of families aren't familiar with, and we want to encourage folks to explore your state guidelines because they may vary based on what the funding pieces and resources can look like. But to this, what were commonplace items would be that the funding from VR services can actually fund tuition at college as well as related costs and expenses such as books and supplies, even some transportation costs, and assisted technology such as reader services, interpreter services, even prescribed aids. Different types of telecommunications, sensory, and technological aids and devices can also be funded with this particular source as well. So what's important to remember, though, are two caveats to that. First of all, some states, they may be more lenient than others with particular costs. So you'll want to check with your state to see what is approved and what can be utilized with VR funding. What's also important to know is that room and board are going to be income dependent. So a family may be responsible for some of those costs.
Do you have questions about learning disabilities? Our experts want to hear from you. Visit our website, awodtv.org, to ask a question. We'll contact you to record you asking your question to air on an upcoming episode. Our experts look forward to providing you actionable tips that make a world of difference. Next, let's reveal our latest difference maker. Perhaps one of the most perceptive and certainly one of the most mouth-watering things suspense novelist Dean Koontz has ever said was when he noted, quote, "Where there is cake, there is hope, and there is always cake," unquote. Koontz may well have been thinking of Jeremiah Josie. From the time he was out of diapers, he was in a kitchen with a rolling pin whipping up sweet treats alongside his grandmother. His passion for pastry led him to launch a YouTube program, Jeremiah's Cooking Adventures, where he cooked with famous chefs. But things really heated up for this easy baker after a guest spot on the Steve Harvey Show. These days, when Josie isn't baking with his culinary heroes or modeling for Tommy Hilfiger, he's penning books about his journey with autism and standing tall as an advocate for the neurodiverse. Being named a difference maker? Well, that's just icing on the cake. A World of Difference correspondent David Dijon brings us his story.
I went to meet a young man who wrote a book.
When I am in the kitchen, it makes me feel confident and happy.
And what I found out was a whole lot more.
Sometimes when there is too much going on around me, I feel overwhelmed and shut down.
He's been on TV shows.
I remember the time when I was first on there for the very first time and I met Steve Harvey. I was like, oh my gosh, is that really him? Is that really Steve Harvey, the comedian?
He travels the world.
They reached out to me and Mom personally, joined them in the Embassy of Qatar.
And a day before I arrived, he received this award from local government leaders.
This proclamation is what I received from Council Chairman Calvin Harris. 23-year-old
Jeremiah Josie is no ordinary author. He's also a baker, model, and inspirational speaker. One more thing, Jeremiah is autistic. But before we get into that,
here's what I want you to know too, written by Simone Greggs and Jeremiah Josie.
Co-author Simone Greggs is also his mother. Together, they creatively crafted Jeremiah's thoughts about autism, baking, and race.
I will never allow racism to keep me from knowing what is right. I will stand up to bullying and racism, and I will work hard to inspire those with autism to pursue their dreams.
When it comes to issues of race and the police, Jeremiah possesses a real fear. He saw what happened in Minnesota to George Floyd.
Coming from the fact that I'm Black and autistic, I wouldn't want to be in a situation with a police officer where he mistakes my autism for not obeying his commands.
This is the second of 2 books published by Jeremiah Josie. The first was simply called Here's What I Want You to Know. The foreword contains high praise from clothes designer Tommy Hilfiger. Jeremiah modeled Tommy Hilfiger clothes during New York Fashion Week for the Runway of Dreams Foundation.
I have like the audience there cheering for me, and the cool part about it was just me doing my famous walk and showing off my style and doing what's called the schmizing, like where you kind of squint a little bit, in a stylish way while you're walking on the runway, just to show your stuff and show your style.
During our time together, Jeremiah opened up about his life.
When I was about 2 years old, my mom took me to a pediatrician because she noticed that there was like something going on in my behavior, and a little bit like that. And when she took me to the pediatrician, my pediatrician told my mom that it was true that I was diagnosed with autism. When I was in school, basically, I just felt like not enough kids there understood autism. Like they would pick on me and bully me and do stuff that a usual bully would do, and I just felt so down in myself a little bit. I always felt like depressed and sad and everything like that. But then the best thing that has really happened to me was when I went to a private school. I managed to embrace my issues by talking to a couple of my teachers at Kennedy Krieger School and therapists there, and they've helped me a lot with embracing my issues. But most likely, I think I've helped myself and by being more determined and being more empowered, so that way I can know for myself that I can do it and make it and set my mind to whatever I want to fulfill my dreams.
Jeremiah seems to use his past experience as a springboard to greater things, many of which you can see on his YouTube channel called Jeremiah's Cooking Adventures. Here he is teaching kids how to cook at Northeast Arc. It's an organization that helps people with disabilities. And here he is cooking with Chef Kwame Onwuachi. He won first place in 2013's episode of Top Chef, the famous TV cooking show.
And me and Chef Kwame have had a really good ongoing relationship since. He's been like a mentor to me, and yeah, he's just a down-and-out great person.
Jeremiah is fine-tuning his cooking skills at the Culinary Institute of America. And speaking of food, Jeremiah shows me how to make egg in a basket. It's his very first recipe given to him by his grandmother.
So Jeremiah, we're gonna do egg in a basket, right? And we've got our ingredients. We have our egg, we've got our butter, and we got our bread.
Yes.
Let's proceed.
All right. We make a hole in the center, as usual. And then, so we put one bread on the frying pan at a time. All right. One egg. Right there. So now what we have to do is just turn it over once the egg gets white.
And there you have it, egg in a basket. And
Nice.
it was delicious.
Give me a schmize. That's great.
So many talents, and it's hard to say just how far Jeremiah will go. And he's just getting started. Jeremiah Josie, a true inspiration.
My advice that I have for youngsters is that never ever let autism stop you from pursuing your dreams, or any other disability for that matter, and that you can do anything you set your mind to regardless of your disability, and that life is hard. Life is hard, and there will be some troubles, and that there will be some things that think that they can try to get in your way, but they really won't, because all you got to do is just keep being more determined and keep pushing forward and just be strong and just live life to the fullest and best to your ability.
Reporting for A World of Difference, I'm Dave DeJohn.
Thanks, David, and congratulations, Jeremiah Josie, for making a difference. And that does it for this edition of A World of Difference, Embracing Neurodiversity. I'm Daryl Owens. I'll see you back here next time. You can watch episodes of A World of Difference on the Beacon College Facebook and YouTube channels and on the show's website, awodtv.org. The website also provides tip sheets and other resources for your parenting journey. You can watch the show from the PBS app available on your favorite streaming device, and you can listen on your favorite podcasting platform. Thank you for watching and supporting A World of Difference.